Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing my very first tag video, the Booktube Newbie Tag. If this is your first experience with a tag video, it's basically a way for booktubers and or author tubers to connect with one another and viewers by talking more about themselves and things beyond just books, but obviously also books. This tag consists of 10 questions for you to get to know more about me, so without further ado, let's get on to the questions. Question number 1, why did you start this channel? I've been a lifelong reader and I've always enjoyed sharing my thoughts on books and other stories I've consumed. I sort of fell into the booktube rabbit hole last summer in 2020 when I had not much else to do, subscribing to lots of new channels and decided I wanted to engage more with other readers. I started by dipping my toes into the water by commenting here and there on videos, then by joining some Discord servers, and finally decided I wanted to make my own videos to share my thoughts on stories. Then I have my secondary goal of writing, since I write and I want to get my name out there so that in a few years when I'm hopefully published, at least a few people will know who I am and to watch out for my books. I don't have a writing group in real life, so YouTube and Discord have provided me a way to talk to other aspiring authors and just people who like to write. I also think it's important for authors to engage with their audiences, and while I'm obviously still an amateur, I wanted to start building up that good habit right now rather than waiting until after I've become published. Question number 2, what are some fun and unique things that you think you can bring to BookTube? Boy, that's a great question. I think everyone has a unique perspective they can bring to really anything, and I wouldn't say I'm necessarily any more fun or unique than any other booktuber, but since I have to come up with something for this question, I would say that since I said I would review basically anything that has a fantastical bent, my uniqueness might come about in the variety of stories I end up talking about. Question number 3, what are you most excited about for this new channel? I'm excited to share my opinions on stories I've read, watched, or played over the years, but I'm probably even more excited to talk about writing. I started writing in earnest when I was like 10 or 11, and back then I couldn't just get on the internet and look up writing tips. It was a lot of trial and error until basically after college when information started becoming more accessible to me. So I'm excited to hopefully connect with others who are working on their own writing endeavors and support them as best I can. Question number 4, why do you love reading? Obviously reading is an outlet for the imagination, and I love being immersed in a story, and reading specifically lets me imagine the way characters look and sound, how the world looks, and so on and so forth. While it's nice to have those things presented to you in like a film or a TV show, there's something that's just really freeing about being the one to bring scenery and characters to life in your own mind. And unlike visual mediums, a written work isn't really fully completed until the words have actually gone into your brain and been affected by your own unique perspective. Question number 5, what book or series got you into reading? The most impactful series for me as a kid would have to be Redwall by Brian Jakes. As you can see back here, I have a whole shelf dedicated just to him. These are probably upper middle grade or lower young adult books, although they do have some weighty topics at times. There's actually kind of a lot of fighting and sometimes even death. The first one of those books I read was actually book number 10, The Long Patrol, which I think I was 10 or 11 years old, which kind of coincided with when I wanted to start writing. I still hold that it's the best one in the series because it's kind of the most military fantasy style one. If you've never read any of the Redwall books, I highly recommend them, even for adults. They feature anthropomorphic animals, which are always fun, in a sort of medieval setting where good and evil are pretty clear-cut overall, and they just provide nice, light, fun romps if you're looking for something that's kind of a palate cleanser. The books are also just full of immersive details, especially when it comes to food. If you've ever read A Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones as some people call it, and thought that Martin goes on way too long with his descriptions about food, just you wait. I don't think there's a Redwall book that doesn't feature a feast of some kind, and it's really surprising if they go underneath like 10 to 12 pages. Question number 6, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So most of my questions would probably be about the actual production of booktube channels, what kind of equipment they're using, like camera, lighting, microphones, editing software, and so on, how they learned how to use all of this, and where did they start? I think a big question is, how do you decide what products to spend money on if you have no background in filming or video editing? But I'd also ask about favorite authors and what got them into reading. One of the coolest things about BookTube for me so far has been connecting to readers in other parts of the world and just seeing our shared love of the same stories. Question number 7, what challenges do you think will be the hardest to overcome when starting a BookTube channel? Definitely producing content that people care enough about to watch has to be my top concern. I can upgrade my camera and microphone and make things shiny and pretty. I can learn how to edit better over time, but if I'm not talking about things that pique people's interests, no one's going to watch my videos. Also, choosing what books to talk about is kind of difficult. I've got a lot of options back here, but most of them aren't really the popular books right now, which is why I'm grabbing books that I like kind of at random rather than ones that I think I should talk about. For now, I'm not really worried about the amount of views or anything like that just yet, but I think it is normal to want to make sure that your efforts are going to go somewhere eventually. Question 8, when did you start reading? I started reading at a pretty young age. My mother has always been a huge advocate for education and literacy, and it was important to her that I be able to read and write pretty well before ever starting school. The two books that I can remember the best from when I was younger are Dogzilla and Cat Kong by Dave Pilkey. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's the writer of a Captain Underpants books. I think I was 6 years old when I read those. He took photos of his pet cat, dog, and rats and basically made children's books that were parodies of Godzilla and King Kong, and they were awesome. Question number 9, where do you read? I mostly just read at home on my couch. Reading in public is kind of hard because I can get distracted pretty easily these days. I've been dabbling into audiobooks recently to try to get some reading done while at work, but I often have to rewind and replay sections because I can kind of zone out pretty easily too. So in the comfort of my home in relative quiet is definitely my preference. And last question, number 10, what kind of books do you like to read? Lots of fantasy and science fiction, if you couldn't tell. The bigger the book and or series, the better. When I was in high school, I was probably averaging a book a week or so, which is why I loved big series like The Wheel of Time, but my reading speed slowed down a lot in college, and it's harder to keep up on things nowadays. But my tastes have always been rooted in speculative fiction, fantasy and science fiction, more than anything else. I'm still a fan of classic tropes such as The Chosen One, The Wise Mentor, The Fellowship, etc. And I think those can be just as fresh as anything else if they're handled well. Basically, as long as the story is engaging and the characters don't make dumb decisions just for the sake of making dumb decisions, I'll enjoy it, even if it's considered derivative by today's readers. And that's it. That's the tag video. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit more about me. I'm still very fresh in my booktube excursion. As always, thanks for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you're interested in hearing more about my thoughts on various stories and following along my writing journey. Leave a comment below if you want to talk about any of my answers or give your own, or feel free to just say hello. I post videos on Sunday and Wednesday. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you here in the next video.